Hello everybody, it's Calxiyn here. So, as a follow-up, I suppose, to our anticlimactic video today, we are going to be talking about death flags for Ilia in terms of our hunters just like, no. Yeah. And so, if you guys enjoyed this video, remember that you guys should join our Discord server or become patrons over on Patreon. So, okay, I know that you don't want to talk about this. I can tell it from the look on your face. Or that you don't want it to happen.
I just don't want to do these videos anymore. But that's neither here nor there.
I think that death for Ilia is realistic, but I really hope that they don't do it. I'm gonna explain why I think that it may happen. And there's also a lot of angles to this. There's like the bury your gays thing. There is just, like, whether, like, she's fully fledged out enough to die.
I mean, they did it for fucking Vernal. I feel like there's still something to that.
There's too much death syndrome, as I would like to call it. Like, there's lots of angles we can look at here.
Why does it look like there's a slight bulge? Because you get to see, like, Pyrrha's crotch there.
I think that's just her hips moving out.
That's just her hip, yeah.
Anyways, so I just wanted to talk about death flag. So, in terms of narrative possibility, so Ilia has recently been redeemed. I think that makes her a target. Like, she defused the bomb. She basically, like, saved everyone from getting exploded. So if right now she dies the hero narratively, that really works well, in terms of her character. That her character went from someone that was ready to die.
The character can grow so much more.
I know, that she was ready to die, for the White Fang, but now, obviously, she is, ready, sort of, to die, for Blake's cause, and if she does die for Blake's cause. I think that is very powerful, but again, there's some other angles I'd like to look at. I don't really want her to die, again, I'm gonna say that, but narratively, it really works for, I don't want to say that she has a savior complex or anything, but it really works for someone who has been recently redeemed to then sacrifice themselves for the cause that they were redeemed for. And you could also say that Ilia sacrifices herself, and I think that they should say this. I think they should go with a gay angle, you can call it that Ilia sacrifices herself because of her love for Blake, and I think that they should explicitly say that, and that'll make me very happy. And so I think narratively it does work, but narratively there are also other advantages to letting Ilia grow as a character, not killing her off right now. Because not to say that I think Vernal was a bad death or anything, I want to talk about Vernal's death separately. But I think that Vernal dying without, we see wasted potential. And it's not necessarily that she was cut short, but that, you know, you see potential that is gone. And it's more like Vernal was 100% of a character, but you could have had 110% of her if you kept her around a bit longer, if that makes sense. Right?
Sure.
You understand what I mean. That it's not like she's not fully fledged. Like, I think that she was drawn out, well for what she was. You know what I mean? I don't know how to explain, I don't know how to explain that any better. What are you doing? I don't know how to explain that any better, but basically I'm not saying that Vernal was half-baked. I'm saying she was fully baked and we could have gotten, like, some extra, like, sprinkles on top. And so for Ilia, I feel like she is also another one of those characters which is, fully baked at this point. Fully baked and ready to die.
Fully Baked and Ready to Die is actually the name of my hip-hop LP.
Anyway, and so I feel like, in terms of that, like, it would just, we would get more of her development, and that would be a great addition, just to her character in general. And so there's always that. And so you have both angles. You have narratively, it really fits in with regular fantasy tropes and, you know, stuff like that. For her to die at this moment in time by Adam, and then sort of, again, like, reiterate her love for Blake, and that kind of drives Blake, to really fight harder. But at the same time, I feel like Blake is already at the point where she is fighting as hard as she can. And so any added stress necessarily from Adam isn't really, or from Ilia dying isn't really going to push her any more forward. Like, she's forward enough, so to speak. So you guys, that's just my opinion on it anyway. You guys may disagree with that, and that's fine. But I feel like that's definitely an angle that you could go for, is that Blake doesn't need any more push to defeat Adam. She has enough beef with him that Ilia dying doesn't really push her character forward anymore. And not that character should necessarily further other characters develop. Like, not that characters' death should necessarily always further the development of another character, but if you're gonna kill her anyway, you may as well have her develop Blake. But the problem is Blake is at a very strong point of development right now where death wouldn't change her. Death would not enhance her, I don't think. Because she has already been through enough suffering that, you know, you reach sort of a cap where things can't get you angry anymore necessarily. Not to say that she wouldn't mourn Ilia, but Blake is already at like 100% capacity, or Blake is at 100% capacity in terms of her fighting Adam and how much she hates Adam and how much she wants to tear Adam down. Like, I think that she's already at 100%. So with Ilia dying, like, she's already at that maximum. So it wouldn't affect her character development, and that's why I think that it would be more preferential for Ilia to die in a place that would further Blake's character development. Because in my opinion, Blake and Weiss are two characters, and I'm going to talk about Weiss in a separate video, but they're basically two characters that have really, like, gotten their max development from this volume. And so I think that you don't need to do any more with them. You should spend that time on other characters and other people that need development, like RWBY. And so again, Ilia's dying doesn't really help anyone's character development, but that's just me. Maybe you guys have a better idea for how it would, but I think Blake is at full tragedy capacity. Like, she's already, like, seen her teammate get cut up by Adam. Like, I don't think Ilia dying would make her any less or any more angry at Adam. She is already very angry at Adam. In terms of, like, the gay angle, that's what I'm gonna call it.
Wow, I love how you said the gay angle and I accidentally zoom in right on Pura's pelvis.
Like, in terms of the gay angle to all this, some of y'all may not care about this, but it is, I think that it is something that we really should kind of consider, is the implications of having your first LGBT character die as soon as, like, basically the same volume that she is introduced. Because some of y'all may be like, but if she was a boy, you know, if Ilia was just a guy that liked Blake, she would still die anyway. And I think that that is true. I think if Ilia was gender bent, nothing would change at all, in terms of, like, the character and, like, sort of Ilia's, tragedy, so to speak. Except that a lot of people think that, like, guys don't show as much emotions or aren't that emotional, and so Ilia's color changing is very much tied to emotions. That may even make it more interesting for her to be male in that scenario. But Remnant is an egalitarian society? Egalitarian? Egalitarian society, and so
as
they...
in E, and then
they wouldn't have, like, men don't cry, like, you know what I mean? Like, if the genders are equal, they wouldn't do that, because crying is seen as something that women do, right?
But
and so
again,
it all goes back to, like, what women would do.
But here's the thing, it may be an egalitarian society in Remnant, but ours certainly isn't.
Yeah, and so that's what I'm saying.
That still affects us in our reading.
Oh, yeah, of course. And so that would still be very, like, a very interesting thing for Rooster Teeth to do, but within the actual canon of the show, it just wouldn't. It wouldn't really mean anything to the other characters if a guy was as, like, emotional as a girl. Like, it's just they're all the same. It's okay. And so in terms of that, like, I do agree. I think that if Ilia was gender bent, nothing would change in terms of her death. But at the same time, I feel like that having your first gay character just killed off for, again, no reason that I can see, because I've already explained that this doesn't really enhance Blake's character at all. So it is mostly just for Death Daughter, and that bothers me a lot, and I would really lose respect for Rooster Teeth if they do decide to go in that direction, unless they do it really well, and maybe I'll eat my words, but I can't see them doing it well because it doesn't help Blake's arc. Like, Blake is at max arc capacity. Weiss at the moment is at max arc capacity, and we'll talk about that in another video. Just how her arc has kind of progressed, and she has her maximum Weissness right now, if that makes any sense. Like, and so I feel like with Blake it's the same thing, and if Ilia's death doesn't benefit anyone and it's just there for shock value or something, I don't think that that's very good of them to do, especially because, again, she is their first gay character. In terms of a business perspective, they literally get crucified online if they do that. And so I think Bernie would be like, how about you don't? Because I'm not saying, like, just Bernie, but obviously they have a marketing team, and obviously they have advisors to a certain extent, right? And if I was on their marketing team, or if I was on just the team in general, I don't know what position this would be exactly, but if I was on the team and they said, hey, we're gonna kill Ilia, I would be like, do y'all not realize what's gonna happen if y'all do that? Like, because I understand there's stuff that you do because it's a story and that's all it is. But at the same time, this show is a business, whether we like it or not. And from a business perspective, it would be horrible if they decided to do that, because it's not only, I don't know how to explain this. It's not only, you know, fans that you have to worry about really losing faith in you, is that any major, I don't know about major necessarily in this context, any major news site that covers this sort of stuff, I should say, because I'm not saying like on CNN, like I'm not saying like CNN's like, covering
fuck
it.
Donald Trump. No.
Some people got confused last time when I said
RWBY.
major news organizations. I mean major news that covers like anime stuff, or LGBT issues, or stuff like that. Or LGBT issues in media,
like,
if that
on
makes
Pink
sense.
News or any shit like that. Like, gay character in RWBY. Like, I don't think that show.
No. But you understand what I mean, right? And, like, people, like, people get more clicks when there is an outrage rather than where there is a, like, celebration, I think I would say.
Yes,
and so I don't know exactly a good example of, like, a news outlet that would post this. But say, like, if this was a video game, say, like, IGN. Or, like, RWBY fans, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if there's a RWBY fan site as big as KH13, but basically for Kingdom Hearts, there's KH13 and KH Insider, and they've actually gotten interviews with the people that make Kingdom Hearts before. So, like, people like that, you know what I mean? And, of course, there would be the YouTuber angle, there would be people that have never watched the show, and that would also be an angle of them commenting on it. Like, it would just be, like, I'm barely a year in to Procom, like, because I'm taking professional communications, but I can tell you it's a bad idea. Like, I have literally, like, what's half of a quarter? A 16th? Or an eighth? I have an eighth.
You clearly are not a mathematician.
I have an eighth of a degree in, like, social media shit, and I can tell you that killing off Ilia would be horrible. It would be a bad, it would be a bad idea. Like, it would be a bad idea. And obviously, I've said this before, but I do want them to write what they want to write. Like, I want them to have integrity as writers and not sort of necessarily pander to an audience, because I think that kind of lacks, like, you start to lose your ability to properly be an artist when that happens. At the same time, this show is a business, and at the end of the day, if you want to make money, I wouldn't suggest this. Like, that's just me. And I think they're smart enough to realize this, which is why I don't think Ilia would die, because I think that they have enough brain cells to rub together between all of them at Rooster Teeth to be like, hey, like, listen, and they could even look at other examples. There have been other games and other shows that have done this before, and they've literally gotten crucified online. Like, what's the 100? We don't know. Nobody knows what the 100 is anymore, because they literally got slandered, basically, if you want to put it like that. Like, they...
I heard something about that. That's a show that
like,
people really like, but
who
it hasn't
knows?
been on,
like,
but...
nobody knows what the 100 is anymore. And I don't mean, like...
Okay, I believe, anyways.
You know what I'm saying? Like, if I looked up, I'm gonna look up right now as we continue talking the 100 and show you the biggest, like, news article.
I have a feeling that this may not serve your purpose, but I digress.
Anyways, and so basically,
I love that you completely dropped it. Like, I'm gonna do a thing. Anyways,
no. I'm still looking at it, but I need to be able to find. I need to be able to find it first. And
well, then
so,
it isn't right there if you need to take a moment.
Well, I need to type the thing into Google anyway, and, like, go down to, like, the reception shit and all of that stuff. And so, what was I saying? So, yeah, basically, what I was saying, like, it would cause, like, a controversy. Like, it's not gonna work out well for everyone, if they did do that. So that's the gay angle. In terms of the death, what did I say? Death fatigue earlier? Like, Vernal's dead. Cinder is questionably, but let's just say she's dead. To have Ilia die and then, I don't know, maybe someone, like, that's too much. Like, y'all gotta chill, you know what I mean? We've had 3 deaths this season already. You had Fergus, you had, I know his name's not Fergus, by the way.
Was it Fergus or
Finnick.
was it the other one?
Oh, I don't know which one died. I think Corsic is alive. Okay. But anyway, you had Finnick, you have Vernal, and Cinder's a question mark, but still, like, it's too, like, once death happens 3 times in a row, you start to really get tired of it.
Not that they haven't done, like, triple death things before.
Yeah.
Not that this isn't, like, you know, hardcore, but I digress.
Mm-hmm. And so here's the thing about the 100, because now I got it. The episode 13 attracted criticism when Lexa, one of the series' LGBT characters, was killed off. Critics and fans considered the death a continuation of a persistent trope in television in which an LGBT character is killed off far more than others, implicitly portraying them as disposable, as only existing to serve the stories of straight characters or to attract viewers.
Not only is it disposable, but also feels like they treat gay people as inherently more tragic. Mm-hmm. I feel like that could, but disposable is also...
A widespread debate among writers and fans about the trope ensued, with Lex's death being cited as a prime example of the trope and why it should end. Showrunner Jason eventually wrote, "I write and produce television in the real world where negative and hurtful tropes exist, and I'm very sorry for not recognizing this as much as they should have." So they basically even themselves admitted...
Tropes don't exist in humanity?
Wait, what?
You don't, like, he said, like, where terrible
for the real world, we're negative, yeah, I guess, I don't know.
No one actually, like, walks away from, like, an explosion pool.
So basically, it seems like, and I can't really, I don't know, where the episode is in terms of the, order, but just to compare the ratings, okay, so season 1, which is sort of, to be expected, they had an average of 2 million. And then season 2, they had another average of 2 million. Now they have, what I should say is 2 million, like 2.5, so 2.5 million, okay? And so the season 2 is, again, 2.5. Then you get down to 1.9. I'm assuming after the Alexa thing happened. Then you get down to 1.4. So you see the drop there. So consistently, they were basically at 2.5 for 2 seasons. Then they dropped a 5. And now they dropped basically like another 5. You know what I mean? So they've dropped now, like, and I guess it is 1 million people if it's 2 5s put together in this chart. Right? Because it's 2 500,000.
I wasn't entirely... Yeah, okay, if that's the case, then yeah.
So yeah, and so basically y'all can see that maybe their ratings have dipped a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Like, maybe just a little, right? And so I'm just citing one show. And that's just one show with one thing that happened. It's not law, right? But it is a very good example of how your views will drop. And obviously it's in the 4th season, right? And so after the 1st season, people drop it for a lot of reasons. But in the 2nd and 1st season, it had consistent ratings. And then, again, it dropped to 500,000. Then it dropped another 500,000. Like, you gotta wonder why that shit happens. You know what I mean? And for a television show to drop that much in an age where people aren't really watching TV as much as they may be tuning in on Netflix or other stuff, I'm like, y'all gotta watch your ass, you know what I mean? Like, that's a little scary to think that 500,000 people dropped your show, like, in the span of 2 seasons. That's, and, you know, probably for this reason, like, that's a little scary. You know what I'm saying? And so, I've talked a lot, I've given a lot of sort of examples and stuff, but Hunter, do you want to kind of chime in, I guess?
Honestly, when it comes to Ilia dying, I do not believe they're gonna kill her. I don't believe that they decided... Because you said the exact same thing about Weiss, where it's just like, she's done, she's not quite done, but it would make it tragic if she was quite... No. I really think that...
Maybe Weiss just isn't gay.
I also feel like you say that, like, you know, there's lessons to be learned. I feel like they learned their lessons, because they were getting people like, alright, fucking any moment here, like, we want the gays to be good. We want them good gays. So I feel like they know and they won't quite do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel very differently about Vernal, who I guess we'll talk about in her own death episode.
Yeah, and so, yeah, it's just, okay, so Vernal looks a little gay, like, let's not lie. But I think that with this, again, it's not a, like, at this point, my opinion is, it's not a matter of what would be good for the story anymore. At the baseline, it comes down to business. And I think that we can all agree from a business perspective that's a fucking horrible idea. Like, I feel like, if anything, if y'all disagreed with everything else I said, that's the one thing that I'm pretty sure we can find some common ground on. Because I think that regardless of what you think, a mass majority of people would drop the show. And, like, let's be real for a second.
No, I wouldn't.
Like, a mass majority of those people. Like, I'm not saying of all of the fan base, but the people that really care about this, like, in terms of the representation. Maybe. I'm not saying, like, a mass amount of, like, all of their viewers. I'm saying more like a mass amount of
I don't think the Mega Shadow Dragon.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, is that I'm saying more
or like the homophobic guy who would, you know, chilling around in our videos.
Yeah, and so that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that, I'm saying that,
He's like you were never seen from a gun.
I don't mean, like, from, the, like, all of the fan base, because that's a big assumption to make. But I'm saying that the portion of the fan base that really cares about this as an issue, it would probably drop it. And I think that is a large number, but it's not everyone. And so I should have phrased that better. I'm sorry. But I think you understand what I mean now, right?
Sure.
Like, basically, what I'm saying is Tumblr would drop it. And even though Tumblr is it's not the mass majority, but it's the mass majority in its own little sense. Like, it would still affect Rooster Teeth very badly, I believe, and so I don't think it would end well for them at all. Mm-hmm. And yeah, like, and y'all may be like, but who cares what Tumblr thinks or whatever. But the reality is that a lot of, like, I think that a lot of the viewers do, like, care about that. If you saw what happened, like, on social media sites like that when Ilia, I'm gonna just say, came out, like, it was trending, like, for a long time, and, like,
RWBY usually trends on Tumblr. RWBY usually trends
but
on
it was,
Tumblr.
like, it was really high in the trendings compared to other stuff going on. Like, it was a fucking event. You know what I mean? And so it was sort of like, it was a real big deal, let's say. And so I feel like that in that regard, you have to, when you're running a business, you have to care about all aspects like that. You know, about whether people will, like, drop your show over certain choices. And then sometimes you decide to make those choices anyway and, like, fuck the haters, but at the same time, you gotta make money. And I feel like this is enough people, like, that the show wouldn't die or anything, but it's not enough people that the show would die, but it's enough people for a business person to be concerned. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You agree with that?
I love Weiss's little elegant glide.
So yeah, that's basically all I have to say about that. I feel like at the last kind of part I was a bit confusing, and so if you guys need kind of clarification on what I mean, I'll be happy to reply to your comments and kind of, again, sort of, like, because it's all a numbers game, and I'm not very good at math, as we established. So...
I mean, come on,
yeah.
everyone knows that, like, you know...
And
one
Are you trying to do the pi thing?
What?
Trying to do the numbers of pi?
No.
Okay, I thought that's what you were doing.
That's 3.14.
Yeah, I know, I didn't know what you were doing.
I was talking about that, you know, your 1/4, 1/8 debacle.
And so, yeah, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video, and that's basically it. Remember that you guys should join our Discord server, become patrons on Patreon, all of that good stuff, and we will see you later. Bye, guys!